Hello everyone, and welcome to another Monster Hunter World video. This is Thegameconomist, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 reasons why you should buy this game for the PC. So my job is to tell you guys what I think is best about Monster Hunter World, so that you guys can make an informed decision about whether or not you want to drop some money on it. Starting with reason number 5, Monster Hunter World got a 90 from the critics and a 78 from the users. Now I know that's not a perfect score, but that's actually a pretty reasonably high score, especially when you consider that it has sold 8 million copies before the launch of the PC version. That's very impressive for a video game, and I feel like that data does kind of show you that the game is doing well with this audience, that people are enjoying it, people are interested in it, or that it's not having any competition. It's the only game offering this kind of gaming experience, if you want to call it that. Let's move on to reason number 4. Monster Hunter World has no loot boxes and no paid DLC, but it keeps pumping out the DLC. I don't know how they're affording that. I don't know if they'll add loot boxes in the future, but I have a ton of respect for that. Basically, everybody's enjoying the new content. I've heard people accuse Monster Hunter of maybe holding back content when it released, and then kind of dripping it back into the game. But honestly, it didn't feel like that when the game was released. In fact, there was so much to do that I kind of wasn't ready for the first DLC when it did come out. And now we're further along. We've had Cove to Roth, we've had Behemoth. There's just so much to do in this game, so many items to farm for, so many pieces of armor and so many weapons to unlock. You're going to find yourself with a glut of high quality, polished content, and nobody pressuring you out of your money for loot boxes or anything like that. They do release one thing actually. They have emotes that you can buy. They're totally optional. They're completely cosmetic. They have just a few cosmetic items, but it's not loot boxes. You know what you're buying and you don't need them at all. They don't affect the gameplay. Reason number 3 is going to talk a little bit about the gameplay. So Monster Hunter World has 14 distinct weapon classes, and I feel like that's a good way to conceptualize the game. There's 14 distinct weapon classes, and you use those to hunt the monster. And what's so interesting about that is really how high the skill ceiling is for each of these weapons. They're all very unique from each other, and it takes a long time to actually be good with any of these weapons. So that adds a lot of replayability to the game. It's very reasonable to believe that you could get 2,000 hours into the game and still have a few weapons that you've not mastered at all, right? Like maybe 2 or 3 weapons that you still need to learn. In fact, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm about 1,500 hours into the game, and there's still about 3 weapons that I really don't know anything about. I just haven't had time to touch them. So in terms of replayability, not only is there a lot of loot to grind for, but there's just legitimately a lot to learn. Reason number 2, the end game. This is really important in my opinion. I would consider myself a hardcore gamer, somebody who games for more than 8 hours a day. And I would say Monster Hunter World has a satisfying end game. I would say my criticisms of Monster Hunter World's end game, if I'm being fair, is that it lacks a true scoreboard when you're playing casual multiplayer. I would love for there to be a scoreboard that kind of tells me how well I'm performing, because you get to kind of stroke your own ego when you see that you've done better than other players from all the experience you have. They don't have a true scoreboard like that, so you just, I don't know. I would love it if they added that, but I'm okay that they haven't, because the actual gameplay itself is enjoyable enough. And I'm loving the latest DLC they released, the Behemoth. He's really challenging. In fact, when the game launched, people were complaining that the game was too easy. And now with the Behemoth, people are complaining that it's too hard. And they haven't even released the Extreme Behemoth, what people are dubbing the Extremoth. So I can't imagine what that's going to be like. That's going to be really challenging. It's exactly what this game needs, is a very difficult and complicated endgame. And I feel like it satisfies that so far. I feel like I find myself playing the game and always trying to do a little better. What a lot of people do in the end game is they get into speedrunning. Basically, you're trying to beat another speedrunner's time, and it can get really, really difficult to do this because the monsters are complicated enough that you really have to memorize them. You have to memorize a lot of things. I mean, it's one of the best descriptions of this game is that's a very dense game. There's a lot of skills to learn. There's a lot of RPG elements that you have to understand, the combination of damage, utility, defense, if you want to talk about being able to stay alive. So a lot of things you have to think about in order to be able to play in the end game, and this game just accomplishes that really well, I would say. Alright, so we're moving on to reason number 1. What I want to do is a short recap of the other 4 reasons. Number 5 is the general consensus is that this is a quality game, right? We talked about Metacritic, we talked about the 8 million copies sold. Reason number 4, no loot boxes and free DLC, you gotta respect that. Reason number 3, 14 distinct weapon classes to work on, and what that really means is there's a ton of learning and a ton of things that you can master in the game. Reason number 2 is the endgame, speedrunning, new difficult content, and I didn't mention this one actually, I'm glad I'm recapping. Extremely rare decorations. Decorations allow you to put together complicated builds. They're a very high level reward, so you try to grind for those so that you can put together more powerful builds for speedrunning. Alright, now that we're done recapping, we're ready to move on to reason number 1, and that is, believe it or not, it makes you feel like a hunter. There's a lot of things I could talk about. I'm trying to keep this video short. I don't want to pull your ear off. This is a deep, complex game that takes you into a gorgeous environment where there's all these things to interact with and learn and understand, and they've incorporated it into the fight with the monster. You have these weapons that take so long to master, all this gear you have to understand, and the monsters themselves, they're very well crafted. It's clear that somebody knows what they're doing with game design, and that's such a rare quality these days in video games. I don't know why it's so hard. It's almost like the people who play these games aren't real gamers or something. They don't sit down for 9 hours a day and just game, but somebody who is working on this game did, and that's why it's so deeply satisfying. They seem to understand how to get you to feel like a hunter, and that's really admirable that they're able to get those feelings into a video game. You're going to get your best feelings when you fight a monster that you've never defeated before, and you feel yourself becoming skilled enough to overwhelm it, when originally, when you first fought it, you were the one that felt overwhelmed, and your mastery comes from an understanding of the environment and all of your gear as well. Those are my 5 reasons why you should buy Monster Hunter World for the PC. If you have any questions for me, let me know down in the comment section. Let me know if I've convinced any of you to purchase the game. Alright, I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.